If the bandana on my head and the first video on this channel wasn't enough evidence,
and not only that, nearly every part of this gun has been expertly crafted and customized. Where'd you get something like this?
I am a huge Metal Gear fan. It's my favorite franchise of all time, and it contains my favorite video game of all time. Someone else who is a massive Metal Gear fan is Antonio Freire of Merlino Games. He is a solo indie game developer whose work I've become obsessed with. Antonio has created a couple of stealth-focused titles. His first ever game was The Chameleon, a game in which you sneak around the facility as a mustachioed Tom Selleck lookalike with a funky shirt. This was soon followed by Undetected, a game that harkens back to the classic days of Metal Gear Solid, with its isometric but also dynamic camera angles. But Antonio is not a one-trick pony. He's departed from the stealth genre and developed games like Luckily, My Arm is a Shotgun, a game in which you walk around as a cute little yellow dude and blast away zombies with your shotgun arm. As well as It Comes in Waves, a short exploration-focused experience with an ambiguous form of storytelling. I don't want to speak too much for him, but Antonio has a fascinating approach to developing his games that I really admire. He goes for a minimalist style where he comes up with an idea and scales it back in a way that he can focus on his strengths while still challenging himself. This allows him to be as efficient as he can as a solo developer and put out games in a relatively short time frame. And his games don't suffer in spite of that. They make his games feel focused and confident in what they're trying to be. No fat, no fluff. And in a world where we often get these giant 50-hour plus AAA bloated games with a ton of systems, massive open world, and checkboxes upon checkboxes, Antonio's games are a breath of fresh air, and pardon the analogy, but they feel like a lean, nutritious meal. And his next game, No Sun to Worship, sounds like his most ambitious one yet. Creeping back into the shadows, No Sun to Worship is a stealth-focused title that promises to dissect the stealth genre. Most prominently, what it means to kill in stealth games. I don't know about you, but my instinct when I go into stealth games is to be as non-lethal as I can. Often stealth games reward you with a better rank, items, or weapons for clearing a level with a minimal body count. But even with those things aside, a non-lethal run just feels like the right way to play stealth games. It can be more challenging by relying on the environment to stay hidden, thus avoiding combat altogether. Or it can encourage the player to make the most of whatever gadgets or items they have in their arsenal that supports a non-lethal run. Personally, I just feel dirty whenever I kill a guard in a stealth game. Like I'm cutting a corner, taking the coward's way out. So much so that my headcanon is that Big Boss and Solid Snake have killed very few people throughout their careers. So it's kind of funny to me whenever characters refer to Snake as a cold-hearted killer with this massive body count. And I'm like, that ain't true. All the guys I came across are all tucked in and sleeping. No Sun to Worship promises to deconstruct the idea of killing in stealth games. Is it justified? As well as the deconstruction of the typical hero player character. Again, Big Boss, Solid Snake, even Sam Fisher. These legendary soldiers that some characters even in-universe fanboy over.
Otacon, is this your idea of a compliment?
Yes! You're the toughest, craziest, most hardcore badass on the planet. You're the shit.
I got to play a demo for No Sun to Worship that was out for a limited time only on Antonio's itch.io page, and I want to sort of break down the demo to not only see how the idea of deconstructing the stealth genre is reflected here, but also to show you an excellent stealth-focused game that I feel like we just don't often get anymore. Stealth can be found as a subgenre within a general action game genre in AAA titles today, but it's rarely ever the main thing the game is going for. And once again, I get the feeling that Antonio is gonna deliver a very focused experience that embraces a concept and is going to nail it. Starting up the demo, we're immediately presented with a man on his knees, tied up and a bag over his head, a hostage, a POW. the kind of person we're used to rescuing in stealth games, throwing them over our shoulder and extracting them safely and heroically by helicopter. But as I walk up to him, there's no button prompt signaling me to free him from his shackles or carry him. All I see is this icon hovering over him. A target. My objective is clear. Pulling the trigger reveals the caption, "Punishment delivered." We're here to carry out a grim mission. That feeling I get whenever I kill a guard in Metal Gear is tenfold here, as I do it to a helpless unarmed prisoner who can't even see me. Looking around, you'll notice more of those target icons, showing you that more helpless prisoners are gonna suffer the same punishment. And you're the guy who's gonna carry this out. This is very clearly the first subversion of the stealth genre. Very seldom do we have to carry out such a low act. Sure, we've had assassination targets before, but they're usually VIPs, high-ranking generals or bosses that have tons of security surrounding them. Never a lowly prisoner in a derelict, cold corner. So because I'm gonna be sort of dissecting this demo, I very well may be looking way too far into things, but I want to see if I can peer into Antonio's intentions with certain design aspects, and I want to start with the look of our player character. Looking at his suit, you can certainly see some inspiration from the stealth suit in Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker, with its very tight, tactical, bluish-gray look, and the gold accents around the arms and legs. But when we get to the face, to me this is a subversion of what I come to expect from the design of the player character in stealth games. Normally, we get a face to connect to and identify as an established, fleshed out person. A rugged-looking badass, a clean-cut and efficient professional, or even a sly-looking raccoon. But our character here has a cold, emotionless mask with a piercing gaze that covers his entire head. No personal features to connect to, just a machine that carries out his purpose. And again, I could just be looking too far into it, and this could just be a badass mask for the character to wear, because it is indeed a very cool looking design. Before we're through here, we walk over the body and get a prompt to pick up a health item. Following through results in our player character sort of absorbing the prisoner's body and converting it into life essence? Again, not sure if this is meant to be taken as simply a game mechanic and a means of recovering health. But looking at the About This Game section in No Sun to Worship Steam page may offer some clues as to what this might mean. The world was already gone when they arrived. Their ships hovered above us, motionless, quiet. They judged us in silence as we picked up the pieces of our past. The greatest war was nothing compared to the serene horrors that ended it. We painted the sky ashen gray, burned the heavens to starve each other. What broken man that we decided to kill ourselves to punish our equals? It is all meaningless anyway. Now we walk an endless cemetery of regret. Now we look up for forgiveness, but they don't care. They only care that we failed. No Sun to Worship contains heavy themes of destruction and death, not just of humanity, but the planet itself. The title, No Sun to Worship, alludes to this. The sun, this thing that can symbolize life and renewal, is seemingly gone. The sky, gray and lifeless. And who are they? We can see their ship in the level select screen, hovering high above, watching motionless. Are they some sort of advanced beings? Is the player character maybe one of them, sent to exact judgment and punishment for humanity's atrocities? Or are we just another soldier in this great war, cleaning up the scraps that remain? Antonio has mentioned that No Sun to Worship will feature survival mechanics, and we can see this in the way that ammunition is handled here. Reloading too early will completely waste whatever bullets are left in that clip. I love this. It really forces the player to be in tune with the moment-to-moment gameplay. Whatever your situation is at hand, enemy placement, the number of enemies, how reloading early to give yourself a full clip to pump into an enemy can bite you in the ass further down the road when you find yourself low on resources. I'm the type of person to reload after just one shot, despite having more than enough bullets in my current clip to take out the next guy, so that's a habit I'm gonna have to break out of. Continuing further down this atmospheric... by the way, let's take a second to appreciate the indeed atmospheric environment we find ourselves in. Dimly lit and claustrophobic. Exposed pipe systems and different colored light sources give it a sci-fi feel that reminds me of the derelict ship from Alien, or the post-apocalyptic world of The Matrix. Making our way through a genre staple, the air vent, we're met with a text prompt telling us to take it slow, which the game doubles down on and visualizes with this slow animation of the character climbing down a ladder. This is crucial advice in a stealth game that, as we're about to find out, has a dynamic sound and detection system that is affected by how fast you're moving, the terrain you're walking on, and the lighting around you. You can see here that walking on water causes a lot of noise and is best to avoid. This is ripped right out of these Splinter Cell games, and I think it is still the best system to communicate to the player how quiet and invisible they're being. There are some games that simplify this idea, and I think that also works really well if it fits the rest of the game's design. Antonio's own Undetected has a binary system that determines whether you're hidden in the shadows or simply not. And it is done in such an elegant and unmistakable way that has the player character's arm tattoo glow red whenever they're hidden in the shadows. That simplified system works great in Undetected because it complements the level design, isometric camera angle, and guard patrols, generally how the entire game is designed. But with No Sun to Worship bringing in a more modern over-the-shoulder camera angle and being a more ambitious hardcore stealth game, I think this more dynamic detection system works a lot better. I anticipate this game being a little more sandboxy than Undetected by offering different ways to approach these levels as they get bigger and more complex. It also lets you take in the environment more, as you try to look out for corners that offer the most darkness to tuck yourself away in. Going back to the health pickup system, enemies can also be absorbed for health points. So, everyone is on the table? Again, are we here to wipe out every scrap of human life? Is it in service of something greater? Other than being in service of our livelihood, we can also use health points for an ability that allows us to silence our footsteps. This to me is so much more engaging than just having a separate meter dedicated to special abilities, because it's a trade-off and again forces the player to be in tune with how they're going about navigating this level and the threats within it. This moment right here is awesome. After taking out this guard and thinking that I was safe, I started carelessly running around and it alerted a nearby guard in a totally separate room. So, calling back to take it slow. Take it very slow. But this really impressed me because after I realized I had alerted a nearby guard and hid behind this pillar, I was treated to this organic introduction of a new enemy type without a cutscene that dramatically introduces this new enemy with a focused shot and a text drop letting us know what these guys are called. It all happened in real time and naturally. I don't know if Antonio telegraphed this and purposely put a guard next to a room you thought was clear, thus alerting him and having him be introduced in this manner, but it totally worked in my case. This moment also served as a way to let me know just how costly the price of getting caught is. These heavily armored enemies, known as the Mantis, are an elite unit that are impervious to headshots and will eat up your ammo reserve, which would be better saved for taking out cameras and lights, for example. No Sun to Worship has very satisfying level design that loops in on itself. Unlocking doors and expanding bridges will connect to earlier areas, and it will quickly make you feel familiar with the level in a way that encourages multiple playthroughs to beat your previous time. After taking out the remaining targets, we head to the exit, and the punishment is complete. No Sun to Worship has shot up to the top of my list of my most anticipated games. Antonio has shown that he has a strong understanding of what makes the stealth genre so engaging and rewarding. And this very small sample alone is so rich that I've already replayed it a ton of times. But what's also very exciting is seeing what kind of story he has to tell with this game. It seems to me that this game is gonna meld the story with its gameplay, rather than giving you these long cutscenes and dialogue-heavy sequences. A minimal and abstract form, while still having heavy themes and a strong message. I'm not usually one to theorize, especially with abstract stories, because I'm not smart. I'm the type of guy that goes to YouTube and searches for X movie explained right after hitting credits. But I want to throw my hat into the ring for this one and see what I can piece together. A great war happened that scorched the earth. Conflicts continue even after everything is lost. Then they arrive. Some sort of advanced life form. Not necessarily alien, but just a separate group of people that has ties to humanity and had faith in us, but we failed them. Now they send one of their own to punish those who remain. To throw a really crazy theory out there, I think that by the time you reach the final level, which appears to be the hovering ship we can see in the world map, the game will commend you or perhaps reward you for carrying out all of these killings. Perhaps the final level will be easier if you rack up a significant body count, as another way to deconstruct the idea of having the final level be the most challenging. And it is revealed to us that we were working for whoever they are. I don't know, that one doesn't sound right when I say it out loud. Either way, this video is going to age terribly when the game comes out, and my theory sounds absolutely ridiculous. I highly suggest you join Antonio's Discord. He's often sharing concept art, devlogs, demos like the one I got to play here, and there's a bunch of people that share a passion for indie game development in that Discord. I'll put a link to it down in the description, but as always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Special thanks to Samira Naji and Carlos Fuentes for supporting at the top tier membership. You guys are certified superheroes.